My parents kicked me out of my apartment for my pregnant sister to move in. My name is Isabella, and I had just turned 22 when I got my degree in business administration. Throughout my college years, I was fortunate to live in my grandmother's old apartment. Well, technically it's my father's now since he inherited it after she passed away 3 years ago. I only had to cover the utility bills, which I managed by working part-time at Luigi's, an Italian restaurant just 2 blocks away. It wasn't always easy juggling work and studies. There were many nights when I came home exhausted, my feet aching from waiting tables, only to face hours of studying for exams or writing papers. But I made it work because that's what responsible adults do. The graduation dinner at my parents' house seemed perfect at first. Mom had outdone herself with the cooking as usual. My younger sister Valentina, 17 at the time, was joking about how she'd miss me helping her with homework. A handful of family members also came. Aunt Sophia and Uncle Alejandro, my cousins Mike and Jenny, and my maternal grandmother. Everyone was congratulating me and sharing stories about their own college days. But after the relatives left, everything changed. Mom cleared her throat in the way she always did before saying something uncomfortable, and my stomach knotted instantly. I'd known that sound since childhood. It never meant anything good. "Isabella, sweetheart," she began in an unusually formal voice. "Now that you've graduated, we need to talk about the apartment situation." I remember setting down my coffee cup slowly, trying to keep my hand steady. The ceramic made a soft clink against the saucer that seemed unusually loud in the suddenly quiet room. "What about it?" "Well, if you want to keep living there, you'll have to start paying rent." The words hit me like a bucket of cold water. On my graduation day, of all days, Dad sat there in silence, suddenly very interested in his coffee cup, while Mom pretended to be absorbed in her phone, though I could see her watching the scene unfold from the corner of her eye. "I see," I managed to say, my voice lower than I wanted. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for my water glass. Mom continued explaining the terms in her practical way. The rent would be below market price. A family discount, she called it with a strained smile, but still substantial. I did some quick mental calculations. I need a full-time job, and fast. Luigi's part-time wages wouldn't cover this. "I understand," I finally said, because what else could I say? They were right in a way. I was no longer a student. I was an adult, and adults make their own way in life. Still, the timing felt cruel, as if they couldn't even let me enjoy one day of celebration before bringing me back to reality. That night, lying in my bed in the apartment, I started searching for job offers nearby. The restaurant where I worked part-time couldn't offer me full-time hours, so I knew I needed something new, something more stable. As I scrolled through listings on my phone, I tried to focus on the practicalities instead of the hurt feelings bubbling beneath the surface. The next year flew by in a whirlwind of work, rent payments, and adjusting to life after college. I got a decent job at a marketing company near the apartment. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and then some. They hired me as a junior account coordinator, and while the starting salary wasn't huge, it was enough to cover the rent my parents charged me, plus utilities, with a little left over to save. Every month, I diligently transferred the rent money to Mom's account. I usually added a little extra for utilities, even though she never asked. I wanted to prove I could handle adult responsibilities, that I was responsible and trustworthy. Maybe a part of me was still trying to earn their approval, though I wouldn't admit it to myself at the time. Valentina stopped by occasionally, usually when she needed help with college applications or wanted to raid my closet. She was in her senior year of high school, and I could see her changing, becoming more distant and reserved. Her visits focused less on spending time with me and more on what she could get from me: help with homework, clothes, advice about boys. Valentina had always been the baby of the family, used to getting her way. Mom and Dad spoiled her terribly, though I tried not to be bitter about it. They never made her get a part-time job like me, never pushed her to be independent. She started dating Jason around that time. He was a year older than her and worked part-time at the electronics store in the mall. The first time she brought him to my apartment, I wasn't especially impressed. He seemed nice enough, but something about him set off alarm bells. Maybe it was the way he talked about getting rich quick, or how he seemed to expect everyone to take care of him. Then came the phone call that would change everything. "Isabella, you need to come over right away." Mom's voice was tense. "It's important." I assumed it was about Valentina's college plans. She'd been wavering between several schools, and I thought Mom wanted my opinion. Maybe they needed help with financial planning or wanted to talk about scholarship options. Valentina had good grades, not spectacular like mine, but good enough to get into a state school. How wrong I was. When I arrived at my parents' house that evening, the atmosphere was strange. Mom and Dad were sitting rigidly in their usual spots on the couch, while Valentina sat in the armchair looking smug. That was the only word to describe it. Smug. "Sit down, Isabella," Dad said in a grave voice. He looked older somehow, tired in a way I hadn't noticed before. I sat on the the edge of the ottoman, gripping it tightly. Whatever this was, it wasn't about college applications. Valentina is pregnant, Mom announced without preamble. I was stunned, trying to process what I'd just heard. My 18-year-old sister was pregnant by her boyfriend, who worked part-time at the mall. I noticed Mom's hands twisting in her lap, a nervous habit she'd had since I was little. There's something else we need to discuss, Mom said, straightening her back and smoothing her skirt. The room started spinning slightly, and I had to grip the edge of the ottoman to steady myself. Excuse me, you need to move out, Mom stated matter-of-factly, as if she were talking about the weather. Valentina and Jason need a place to start their family. It's the perfect solution, really. The apartment is already furnished. It's in a good neighborhood, and it's close to Jason's parents. I looked at Valentina, who was examining her freshly painted nails with a satisfied smile. She didn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable about kicking her own sister out of her home. She was wearing my old sweater again, I noticed distractedly, the one she'd borrowed last month and never returned. Just 1 week to find a new place, I managed to say, my head spinning. The idea of apartment hunting while working full-time made my stomach churn. 1 week should be enough, Mom said. Oh, and Isabella, she added, as if she'd almost forgotten something trivial like asking me to buy milk on the way home. You'll still have to keep paying rent. In fact, I laughed, actual laughter, thinking it was a joke. The sound was harsh and ill-timed in the tense room, but when I saw their serious faces, my laughter died in my throat. You can't be serious. Your sister and Jason are young, Mom explained patiently, as if speaking to a child. They don't have jobs yet, and with the baby on the way. Her voice trailed off, vaguely gesturing to Valentina's still flat stomach. Before we continue, if you're finding this story as shocking as I did, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. Have you ever dealt with entitled family members? Drop your experience in the comments below. So let me get this straight, I interrupted, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You want me to move out and keep paying rent for an apartment I won't be living in for them? They need our help, Isabella, Dad said sternly, finally looking me in the eye. It's your responsibility as an older sister. Family helps family. My responsibility? I stood up, my hands trembling with anger now. If they're mature enough to have a baby, they're mature enough to get jobs and support themselves. Have either of them even looked for full-time work? How can you be so selfish? Valentina suddenly interjected, her eyes filling with dramatic tears. I'd seen those same tears when she was 12 and wanted a new phone, or 14 and wasn't allowed to go to a party. I'm going to be a mother. Don't you care about your niece or nephew? You're being very ungrateful, Mom said coldly. After everything we've done for you. Ungrateful? I've been paying rent for the last year. I've been working since college. And now you want me to support two perfectly capable adults who got themselves into this situation? I won't pay a single cent for them. If you want to enable this, that's your choice, but don't count on me. I walked out of that house with their shouts of ungrateful and selfish following me to my car. The front door closed behind me with a finality that felt like the end of something fundamental. I didn't wait a week. That same night, I started packing my things, tears streaming down my face as I sorted through 4 years of memories. Fortunately, I had some savings. All those extra hours at work were finally going to pay off. I'd been saving money for a rainy day, and apparently the storm had arrived. I found a small studio apartment across town and signed the lease the next day. It wasn't as nice as my old place. The kitchen was tiny, the bathroom needed updating, and the commute to work would be longer. But it was mine. As I packed, I made detailed lists of everything in the apartment, categorizing items by who had paid for them. The furniture my parents had provided stayed behind. The old couch from their basement, the dining table that had been my grandmother's, the bookshelf Dad had assembled when I first moved in. But the books that filled it, the clothes in the closet, and the kitchen items I'd bought myself went into boxes marked with my name. My coffee maker, a splurge after my first work bonus. My laptop, purchased with 3 months of saved tips from Luigi's. My bed, bought piece by piece, frame, mattress, bedding, during my first 6 months of full-time work. Everything I'd worked hard to buy went into boxes and straight to my new place. It took me 2 days to move everything. My boss was understanding when I asked for a personal day, though I didn't explain the full situation. When I finished, I stopped by my parents' house one last time and left the keys on their doorstep. A week later, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom called, her voice shrill with rage. What have you done to the apartment? She demanded. It's empty. Everything that was there when I moved in is still there, I replied calmly, focusing on keeping my voice steady. I only took what was mine. I bought those things with my own money. Money I earned working while I went to college. Maybe Valentina and Jason can try doing the same. You selfish little. The string of expletives that followed would have made a sailor blush. I'd never heard my mother use that language before. I hung up before she could finish. That night, sitting on my mattress in my new apartment, I cried for the first time since this whole mess started. I cried for the family I thought I had, for the sister who became a stranger, for the parents who chose to enable her instead of support me. But most of all, I cried for myself, for the naive girl who thought working hard and doing the right thing would be enough. It's amazing how quickly life can change. In just 1 year, I went from being the good daughter to the family outcast. I threw myself into my work with an intensity that surprised even me. My boss, Sophia, noticed my dedication and started giving me more responsibility. responsibilities. When an important client needed someone to handle their social media crisis at 2 a.m., I volunteered. When the office needed someone to come in on weekends to prepare a big presentation, I was there. Work became my sanctuary, the only place where effort and merit actually meant something. Soon I was leading my own projects. The promotion came with a nice raise, enough that I could start looking for a better apartment. My small studio no longer felt so cramped, but I'd started dreaming bigger. I opened a savings account specifically for a down payment on my own house someday. No more renting from family or anyone else. Through mutual friends and social media, I heard snippets about my family. Valentina had given birth to a boy, my nephew, though I never met him. There were many photos posted online. A little face wrapped in a blue blanket, chubby hands reaching for the camera, first smiles captured and shared with the world. Valentina and Jason, still engaged, playing house in my old apartment while my parents paid all their bills. Then one day, out of the blue, an email appeared in my inbox from Valentina. My heart skipped when I saw her name. "Hi, sister," it said, as if the past year had never happened, as if she hadn't participated in kicking me out of my home. "I hope you're doing well. I heard you got promoted. Congratulations. I'd love for you to come visit and meet your nephew. He's such a precious angel, and I know you'd love him. Plus, I heard you're doing really well financially now." I should have known there was a catch. There always was with Valentina. The next email arrived before I could process the first one. A list. Not just any list. A wish list of baby items that would make my credit card weep just looking at it. Designer clothes that cost more than my first month's rent. A stroller that cost more than my laptop. Premium toys that probably cost more than Jason earned in a month at his part-time job, assuming he still had it. I sat staring at my screen, wondering if this was some kind of joke. After everything that had happened, after a year of no contact, this was how she chose to reach out? Not with an apology, not with any acknowledgement of what she'd done, but with a shopping list. "Are you working yet?" I replied, ignoring her list completely. The question was direct, deliberate. Her response came quickly. "Oh, mom and dad take care of everything. They pay all the bills and give us spending money. Jason and I don't need to work right now. We're focusing on being parents. It's such important work, you know." Then came the kicker. "Actually, we're thinking about having more children soon. Mom and dad are so foolish. I mean, so understanding. They'll have to keep helping us if we have more babies. And we want a big wedding too. Nothing cheap. Those old fools will pay for everything." I read Valentina's email 3 times, each time feeling more disgusted than the last. My little sister had become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who called our parents old fools while happily taking their money. Someone who planned to have more children just to keep the gravy train running. I didn't respond. What could I say? "Congratulations on being a manipulative freeloader. How's professional gold digging working out for you?" Instead, I closed my laptop and tried to forget about it. But the words kept echoing in my head. Those old fools will pay for everything. But fate had other plans. A few months later, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in over a year. Mom's. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Isabella," she said, her voice different somehow, tired, defeated. "We need to talk. Can you come over?" Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe a part of me still hoped for reconciliation. Whatever the reason, I found myself driving to my parents' house that evening. Familiar streets felt strange now, like visiting a place you'd only seen in dreams. It looked older than I remembered. Dad's hair had more gray, and Mom's face showed new wrinkles. The dark circles under their eyes spoke of long hours and sleepless nights. They sat on their familiar couch, but something in their posture spoke of defeat. "We've been taking extra shifts," Dad said without preamble, his voice rough with exhaustion. "Working overtime to help your sister and Jason." I waited, saying nothing. The wall clock ticked loudly in the silence. "We know you're doing well at your job," Mom continued, and I felt my heart sink. This wasn't going to be an apology. This was going to be another demand. "We think it's time for you to help support your sister too." I couldn't help it. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh of pure disbelief. The sound bounced off the walls of the too quiet house. "You want me to do what?" "Your sister can't work right now," Mom insisted, leaning forward. "She has to take care of the baby. It's a full-time job. And what about Jason? He has to help with the baby too." I looked at these people who had raised me, who had taught me about responsibility and hard work, who had pushed me to get good grades and work part-time during college. Now they sat here making excuses for 2 capable adults who refused to support themselves. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly, carefully pronouncing each word. "You're working extra shifts to support my sister and her fiancé, who are perfectly capable of working but choose not to. And now you want me to help enable their laziness too?" Dad's face turned red. "You're being selfish and greedy. If you don't help support your sister, consider yourself disinherited." "You can't disinherit someone who's already gone," I said quietly, and walked out of their house for what I hoped would be the last time. The sound of the door closing behind me felt like the period at the end of a very long sentence. When I got home that night, my apartment felt like a sanctuary. I kicked off my shoes, made myself a cup of tea, and sat down at my computer. My hands were steady as I opened my email and found Valentina's message from months ago, the one bragging about manipulating our parents, calling them old fools, and describing her plan to avoid work by having more children. I stared at it for a long moment, my cursor hovering over the forward button. Part of me felt like I was betraying a confidence, but then I remembered that Valentina Valentina had betrayed our parents' trust long before this. Without adding any message or explanation, I forwarded the email to Mom. Sometimes raw truth is more powerful than any commentary. Mom didn't respond, but a week later, my phone rang. It was Aunt Sophia, Mom's sister, who had always been the family's unofficial news channel. "You won't believe what happened," she said, her voice loaded with family gossip. I could picture her sitting in her kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, probably still in her nurse's uniform after her hospital shift. "Your parents kicked Valentina out of the apartment." I almost dropped my coffee. "What?" "Apparently there was a huge fight. Your mom found out Valentina had been mocking them behind their backs, planning to take advantage of them. They told her and Jason to leave and that they wouldn't give them any more money." I listened as Aunt Sophia detailed the explosive confrontation, how Valentina had screamed and cried, pulling out all her usual dramatic tactics, how Jason had stood there uselessly with the look of a deer caught in headlights, how Dad had finally put his foot down and told them they had 3 days to leave. According to Aunt Sophia, Mom had been eerily calm, simply saying, "We've been fooled for too long." After hanging up, I wasn't surprised when my phone lit up with Valentina's number. I could predict the conversation before it even began. "Isabella." Her voice was full of tears, the same fake crying she'd used since we were kids. "Can we stay with you? Just until we figure things out. Please, we have nowhere to go." "No," I said firmly, surprised by how easy it was to say that single word. "You're just like Mom and Dad," she screamed. "Everyone is so selfish. Family doesn't exploit family," I said quietly, and hung up before she could argue. Later, I learned through family rumors that Valentina, Jason, and the baby had moved in with his parents. Apparently, his mother was a strict, sensible woman who believed in tough love and responsibility, the kind of parent who didn't tolerate freeloading or manipulation. According to Aunt Sophia, Valentina was miserable. Her mother-in-law made her follow a strict schedule, help with household chores, and raise her child instead of pawning him off on others. She had to do laundry, cook, and contribute to the household. Valentina spent her days complaining about how hard everything was, how nobody understood how difficult her life was. Life has a way of coming full circle. A few weeks ago, on my birthday, I was celebrating with friends at my apartment. No longer the small studio, but a nice 2-bedroom place I'd bought with my savings and good credit. I'd invited a small group for dinner and drinks. Nothing fancy, just good food and better company. The doorbell rang during dessert, and a courier handed me a package. The return address made my heart skip. It was from my parents. Inside was a silver photo frame, elegant but not flashy. I recognized it immediately. It was the kind of thing I'd admired once in passing during a shopping trip with Mom years ago. I'd been looking for something to display my college diploma and had commented on how beautiful it was, but the price was out of my budget at the time. With it was a card. "We're sorry. We miss you. When you're ready, we'd like to talk." The handwriting was Mom's, but Dad had signed it too. No demands, no guilt trips, just 9 simple words. I placed the frame on my coffee table and stared at it for a long time. My friends asked if I was okay, and honestly, I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain that a silver frame can feel like both an olive branch and a weapon at the same time? That was 2 weeks ago. The frame is still on my coffee table, and the card is stuck to my refrigerator. I see them every day, reminders of what I've lost and what might still be salvaged. I still haven't called them. The hurt is still there, a dull ache that sharpens when I think about everything that happened. I hear snippets about Valentina through family members. She's still living with Jason's parents, still complaining about having to do household chores and follow rules. Her mother-in-law makes her help with cooking and cleaning and insists that Jason maintain his full-time job at a local warehouse. They have to contribute to household expenses and save money if they ever want to move out on their own. Part of me hopes this experience helps Valentina mature, teaches her the values our parents failed to instill. Maybe someday she'll understand that love doesn't mean enabling bad behavior, and that being family doesn't mean being a doormat. Maybe she'll learn that respect must be earned, not demanded, and that responsibility comes before privileges. As for me, I'm doing well. My career is thriving. I just received another promotion and now lead my own team. I have good friends who understand boundaries and respect independence. I'm learning to set healthy boundaries in all my relationships, personal and professional. Sometimes I miss the family I thought I had, but I'm starting to accept that it was never really what I imagined. The silver photo frame is on my coffee table, a reminder of what I've lost and a possibility of what might be rebuilt someday. When I'm ready, when the hurt has faded enough for forgiveness to take root, when I can look at my parents without seeing the people who chose to enable my sister's worst behavior instead of supporting my independence. But for now, I'm focusing on my own life, my own growth, my own journey. My apartment is slowly becoming a home, filled with things I've chosen and earned. I'm planning a vacation for next month, my first real vacation since college. I'm thinking about getting a dog. Small steps to build the life I want, not the one others try to force me into.